The vital flow of global information in the early 18th century moved entirely at the speed of heavy machinery. This is the American Weekly Mercury, published in Philadelphia on April 14, 1720. Reading these dense columns of international datelines, Hamburg, The Hague, Naples, reveals a continent engineering a massive political transition, actively attempting to formalize an era of stability. Directly below these headings, the paper reports on aggressive military preparations and market volatility that threaten to fracture these new borders. The front page covers three distinct crises: a sudden surge in Russian naval construction, severe grain scarcity in the Italian theater, and high-stakes corporate maneuvering over sovereign debt in London. To understand the actual geopolitical landscape of 1720, we have to look past the diplomatic treaties. We need to track the physical movement of guns, grain, and gold, exactly as the news desks of the era reported it. We start at the Netherlands, the primary hub for European diplomacy during this period. According to the dispatch dated Hague, December 17th, the States General are formally acceding to the Treaty of Quadruple Alliance, but the city of Amsterdam initially refused to give their consent, delaying the resolution for months before finally yielding to political pressure. With the internal dispute resolved, the official correspondence concludes with deep optimism. Letters from the North give hopes that a general peace will shortly be concluded. These signatures represent the official vision for the North, but the reports arriving from the Baltic shipyards describe a different reality. Shifting our focus to the Eastern military theater, a new dispatch arriving from Hamburg details the Russian Tsar's increasingly aggressive posturing. St. Petersburg had recently been transformed into a booming maritime and economic center. The warehouses here are fueling a rapidly expanding Russian war machine. The scale of mobilization is massive. The paper reports the Tsar has already readied 40 ships of the line. A ship of the line in the year 1720 is an absolute floating fortress. It requires hundreds of mature oak trees to construct and carries multiple tiers of heavy artillery designed to batter enemy fleets into splinters. But these 40 massive warships are only a fraction of the total order. The dispatch reveals the Tsar demands 200 more galleys against Sweden, nimble invasion craft built to swamp coastal defenses. The sheer volume of capital, labor, and timber required to float 240 vessels proves that despite the rhetoric of peace in the West, the East is actively preparing for total war. Meanwhile, in the Mediterranean, the Imperial Army is locked in heavy fighting across Sicily. Sustaining that combat requires constant, exhausting logistical support. The Naples dispatch reveals English warships must convoy troops across the water. The civilian cost is staggering. Authorities bought 50,000 sacks of wheat to prevent starvation. Captured inventory from Messina includes hundreds of tons of brass and iron cannons pulled from the sea. Warfare in 1720 functioned as an all-consuming logistical leviathan, swallowing the grain and metal of entire cities. Moving deeper into the paper brings us to the internal financial reports, where a different kind of war is being waged. London has now become the epicenter of a highly experimental corporate power structure. The South Sea Company is submitting an audacious proposal directly to Parliament. Their objective is to absorb the national debt. The target is what the paper calls unredeemable funds, debts the British government has accrued and cannot easily pay off. The company offers to take these heavy liabilities off the state's ledger entirely. This chart visualizes the staggering scale of the proposal. The company plans to take on between 11 and 12 million pounds sterling, a number that completely eclipses normal national revenue. Governments are actively outsourcing the massive financial burden of their conflicts to private speculative corporations. Across the English Channel in Paris, this aggressive financial engineering is resulting in visceral public blowback. The private letters from Paris dispatch details the fallout surrounding John Law, the controversial architect of the French financial system. Law is facing direct threats against his life. Papers are being dropped in the streets threatening his assassination. The government is desperate to protect their economic wizard. They are forced to appoint a guard of Switzers purely for his personal security. The financial bubble generated life or death terror for its architects. In the streets of Paris, economic risk manifests as a direct physical threat. Returning to the local desk, the second page of the Mercury features a dateline from Philadelphia itself. While European powers engineer massive debt schemes and build armadas, the American colonies face highly kinetic, direct threats to their vital supply chains. The paper reports pirates are actively capturing merchant vessels en route to the Caribbean. The dispatch details the fate of the sloop Samuel and Sarah, captained by Matthew Phillips. Captured on its way to Barbados, pirates stripped the vessel and made a store of her. The high-stakes naval maneuvering tying up warships in Europe leaves crucial colonial trade routes dangerously vulnerable to organized criminal fleets. Look at the shared geographic scope of a single newspaper printed in 1720. We have moved from the polished diplomatic halls of The Hague to the frozen shipyards of Petersburg, and from the tense financial streets of Paris to pirate-infested waters in the Caribbean. Early 18th century citizens were not isolated. They consumed a highly complex, globally interconnected media diet. The editors balanced the diplomatic promise of a general peace directly against the violent reality of street-level assassinations and imperial aggression. The mechanisms of our modern global system, state-backed corporate debt, intricate military logistics, and international geopolitical treaties are already fully functioning here. They are being tracked and published daily by colonial printers. The headlines of 1720 offer a perfect mirror to the present. The old ink has dried, but the driving forces of power, coin, and cannon remain exactly the same today.
The Daily Dispatch, history in print.